All right, let's talk about Torture Garden. Look into my shears of fate deeply, 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 deeply. He says deeply so many times. I thought I was watching a porno. It was ridiculous. So anyway, this movie stars Jack Palance, Burgess Meredith, and of course Peter Cushing, who shows up in a lot of these. Same director as the last film, and it is Robert Bloch, the Psycho writer. Not a writer who is a psychopath. The guy who wrote the book Psycho. And he wrote the next one as well. Now, this is actually Dr. Diablo's Torture Garden in the movie, and with the last film being called Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, it would have been cool for them to keep that like into the next one. Like last time it was Dr. Terror, this time it's Dr. Diablo. I don't know why they changed it, because they could have used it easily. And this one comes off, this one is more of a warning of what they will become in the future, as opposed to in the last one, it's more of a foreshadowing that they can't get out of because they end up dying. And in this one, spoiler discussion, obviously. In this one, they all end up living. And the funny thing to me about that is in the last one, the majority of the people in the movie were good people, and they ended up dying. And in this one, the majority of the people that he's telling the story to are dickheads and do terrible things in their stories, and they get to live. So whether or not these actually happened to them after they left, we don't know. Are those their fates? Are they already sealed? There's nothing they can do about them. I don't know. There's the scene when he's publicly executing someone in front of them, and he actually waits to see if they're going to stop him for like a good 5 seconds. And I thought that was going to be kind of like a knock on their morality later in the movie. Like, you have shitty futures and you were shitty people that didn't stop a public execution. So I thought that was going to play into the movie, but it really didn't. So I'm not really sure what that was. It was just yet another excuse to give Burgess Meredith another monologue, which he delivers very well. I think he's good as Dr. Diablo. I really like some of his, as I said, some of his monologues, his big long con jobs. Like he's talking to these people about this and that. And at the end of the movie, we find out that it kind of all is a con job, because the last guy is supposed to go and look into the shears of fate deeply, 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 deeply. And he stabs Diablo and is like, no way. And then they all run out and he's like in on it. And he's like, yeah, all right, I'm going to get ready for the next show. And it's like, so the shears of fate are real and they really did see what their futures were, but then he has to con them with a stage setup performance from an actor. It was odd. It was kind of like, so is this real or is this not real? Is that the only way you can get them out of there? I don't know. So that was an odd little twist on that. And they're the only ones that want to do it. Like, they're willing to pay £5. The curiosity gets the best of them. But as I said, they all kind of, outside of one girl, the girl with the piano story, they're all really shitty people. But let's get into them. So the first segment, the greedy son of a bitch who's trying to get his relative's fortune. He holds the guy's heart medication from him as he keels over, and he's like, tell me where the treasure is, tell me where the treasure is. And he keeps pulling the medication away, and the guy's like crawling across. It's terrible, man. To be able to do that to somebody, you have to be an evil motherfucker. But of course, the joke is on him, because when he searches the house and he does end up finding this treasure, it comes with a price. He frees this spirit, which has taken the form of a cat, and the cat commands him to do things for his bidding. So he goes out and he murders a vagabond, a vagrant, a tramp, as they call them in this movie. I mean, I guess no one was really allowed to be homeless back then, because the cops like coming door to door like, we heard there was a tramp in these parts. Like, whoa, one homeless guy? Shit, you don't want to fucking work where I live. There are tons of them here, which there seem to be everywhere nowadays, which is very sad. And another thing I forgot in the wraparound segment that I found was funny was that they all are convinced that the girl with the shears here that she's like a wax statue or animatronic, and she, like, every time they look at her, she's clearly like chest breathing, like I'm like, yeah, so he made a robot little wax mannequin that can breathe. Sure, why not? But yeah, this cat makes him kill. Like, is a lot of the ideas in these Amicus anthologies and these older films seem like they would be ridiculous, but I like the way they play out. They don't feel as silly as they sound when I'm saying them out loud. And I don't know. I think it's just maybe because of the times, and you're willing to look past things and be like, oh, well, whatever. But it is a scary thought to think, like, I mean, look at somebody like, the Sam Sweet or whatever. He said that, like, the freaking, the guy who killed the Summer of Sam, he thought he was hearing the voices from the dog next door telling him to kill. Like, if you really did, that's fucked up. Like, that sucks. And that's this scary, as I always talk about this, like, he had no control. Like, he killed that vagrant, and then he ended up killing that chick that came over, and then he gets caught and he's thrown in jail, and he's trying to protect everyone, like, no, don't leave me in here, someone's gonna come and get me, and don't go there. And you know, and he ends up looking back and the cat's there, and then we get a really odd scene where I don't know if the cat did this or if he did this to himself, but the guy comes, the police chief or whatever the hell he is, the guy is standing guard, and he looks at him and he hears him scream, so he runs in and he looks in the jail cell, and the guy is laying on his bed with no head, and there's just blood up on his pillow. There's like just a little stream of blood here and there. A guy lost his head. There would be blood everywhere. And this blood actually looked a little better than the last one. Still not realistic, but a little better. But I was like, did the cat claw his head off? Like, how did that happen? Did he rip his own head off? I don't know what the hell that was. But then, yeah, then the police chief guy ends up hearing the voice of the cat, and he's going to convince him. He's got control over a policeman, or like he looked like he was in charge of the place. He was a police chief. Shit, he's going to be able to kill everybody. Then we move into the second segment, the bitch who fucks over her friend by burning her dress and going out on the date she was supposed to so she could move ahead in the business and try to get an acting gig, and she meets like the big celebrity at the time. And this one's funny because it's playing off of the whole idea that these celebrities that we know always seem to be able to stay on top and stay young looking forever, like a Keanu Reeves or something, where you're like, does this fucking guy ever age? This is ridiculous. He looks the same as he did 20 years ago. How the hell is he doing it? I'm getting older and he's not. And it's, you know, she finds out that these are like synthetic bodies that this doctor has made, and they just keep the brain in the head, and he's able to fix them up. Which actually doesn't really make any sense, because later, you know, when she finds this out, like right before she finds that out, she's talking to the producer guy, and she says that she did some background digging and research, and she found out that this guy's face and chest were crushed beyond repair. And it's like, his face was crushed beyond repair, and the brain inside his head didn't get hurt at all in order to switch it over to the other synthetic body he had for him. And just running her nails slightly across his face was enough to expose the metal exoskeleton that he had underneath. No. Or skeleton, exoskeleton. That's on the outside, right? That's not right. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Don't listen to me. I know horror movies, okay? I don't know that shit. But yeah, like he's got like a Terminator. They're like the Terminator under there. And it's just like, what is it? Made of wax? She just runs her fingers across and like immediately comes off, and you can see that guy needs to work on his, like, I'm one to talk because I've built so many fucking synthetic bodies for people to transfer their brains into. I'm like, well, actually, if you use this material, you could... Yet again, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I just thought it was funny that she could just scratch him that easily. Man, what a bitch. And she like goes to her friend, and she's just like completely outright like admits like, I'll do anything to succeed in this business. And her friend's like, well, I won't. And she's like, well, you ain't gonna do shit here. And then something happens at the end of this, and it kind of reminded me a lot of The Number 12 Looks Just Like You, the Twilight Zone episode, which is one of the greatest Twilight Zone episodes. It depicted the future very, very well. But it kind of reminded me of that because when they are going to kill her, and the big movie star is like, no, like we can use her, she can be the next big thing, and she's completely opposed to it. She wants nothing to do with it. She says she'd rather die. And they grab her and hold her, and a doctor comes up and he injects her with stuff and he puts her to sleep. And when they cut to the next scene, she's like the big star, and her and that dude are together, and she is like looking at the camera, and she seems to be all about it. So either she accepted it once, like she got out of there and was like, you know what, actually, I kind of like being immortal. I kind of like being praised. Although they said they live off of applause and whatnot. I don't know how true that is. I mean, maybe that's what he's saying because they're not allowed, like because they have synthetic bodies, they can't have sex, they can't eat, they can't. So they have to literally live only to live off applause. I'm guessing that's what it is. I don't think that they actually like eat applause. But she seems to be okay with it in the end. And it's like, did she change her mind or during the procedure? Because the actor seemed to have all of his own, opinions to himself still. He seemed to be, he's like, you don't want this and this and that. So it wasn't like he was brainwashed into believing it was good after he didn't want it. Like or maybe it takes a long time to wear off. I don't know. But at the end, it was just like, so she accepted it? Like once it happened to her, she was kind of like, well, I'm immortal now and I'm beautiful and everyone wants me. I can't have sex, which is the worst curse of all time. But yeah, I don't know. That was an interesting thing going on at the end there. And I think that's it. Yeah. All right. Third segment, moving on. The Jealous Piano. Now, this is a story that it's kind of funny to me because when I say it, like that there is a jealous killer piano in this movie, it seems ridiculous. And I've seen a few killer pianos in my life, obviously in the 1977 Japanese movie House, or Hazo, however you say, Hausu, I think that's how you spell it. Great movie, man. You want to see a really fucking wild movie. That movie's fantastic. But also, this actually really reminded me when she's in the room at the end and she's like trying to get away from it and it's like chasing her around the room. Pianos are huge. They're terrifying. Can you imagine that thing coming at you? It really reminded me of Big Boo's Haunt in Mario 64. Yep, I played the shit out of that game. And when you go through that room and the piano comes chomping at you, that's what it reminded me of. Any 64 fans out there remember Big Boo's Haunt? This was a pretty uneventful segment. I really don't have almost anything to say about it except for it's a ridiculous scenario. And making it work on screen was a feat. But I think they pulled it off because at the end, the piano, it should fucking feel ridiculous. It should be something you roll your eyes at, like really a killer piano, a jealous piano. But it's actually scary when it's coming at her and it's like keys are all going down. It's like, I don't know. It was actually quite effective. So, as I said, I don't really feel like, did I write anything else down here? I don't think so. She wasn't a bad guy. I said that earlier. It was like, she's the only good person. She ends up getting murdered by a fucking jealous piano, so I feel bad for her. That's it. I don't really have a ton to say about that. And moving on to the fourth segment, the best segment in the movie. Peter Cushing and Jack Palance going at it as Edgar Allan Poe collectors. I have a buddy that I've met in Killer Flicks. His name's Stephen Arthur, and we're like constantly trying to outdo each other on movie collections. Like we post every fucking other day or every day about our new mail, additions that we get in the mail. And it felt like it would be like me and him meeting for the first time in reality and being like showing off collections and trying to outdo each other. And then one of us killing the other one to try to get all the movies we didn't have in our collection that they have. Which he ended up just buying Dr. Terror's House of Horrors because I reviewed it yesterday. So we're very much in line with each other and we want to outdo each other, but we're always very happy for each other that we have these new ones. Anyway, I'm gonna stop sucking his dick right now. I really, really enjoyed this segment. I mean, just seeing Jack Palance and Peter Cushing kind of going back and forth at each other in this was fantastic, man. What a great segment. Just the obsession of Jack Palance's character. He really brings such, like, I love him in this movie, and I love him in most of the movies he's in. He's just got that snide, smug fuck look on his face, and it just works so well for the character. And you know, they're both Edgar Allan Poe fanatics. They meet at this little, you know, showing. I guess he's having like a grown man's show and tell. And he shows up and he's like, you want to come over and see the real shit? And so he takes him down in the basement and he shows him all these unpublished works. And then Palance is like looking at it under, you know, fire and being like, what? This page has been, you know, trademarked or watermarked for like 1965. You know, he died forever ago. And he finds out that he collected his fucking ashes. You know, his father, great-grandfather or whatever was a grave robber who sold cadavers to medical students. And he found Edgar Allan Poe's body and burned it up and kept the ashes. And he was able to bring him back to life. And he keeps him like in a secret room behind a secret room. Like, that's how secret he is. And he just sits back there and he like makes him write. And he has all these unpublished works that he just keeps down there. It's great, man. And then he kills him to get back there. And he's just the obsession in Palance and you know, the collecting nature of Peter Cushing to like go to the lengths to bring someone back from the dead because you want something more from them. Like, there's plenty of filmmakers and stuff in the past that have died, actors and whatnot, and you're like, no. I remember when Heath Ledger died, I was like, no, like, you're supposed to come back for their third film in the Dark Knight trilogy. Like, the Joker was supposed to come back at the end. He says, I have a feeling you and me are going to be doing this forever. It's like, no. And there was just like that crazy fucking fanatic in me that would be like, if I could figure out a way to bring him back just to make that movie, I would. But I really like The Dark Knight Rises, so it is what it is. But who knows what I would have got otherwise. And there's plenty of artists that we can all say, like, oh my God, what if Kurt Cobain is still alive, or, you know, whatever. And then at the end, as I said, was it a con? Was it not? I don't know. But yeah, I think that's all I got to say about this one. I'm going to be talking about The House That Dripped Blood later. I've already watched like half of it. So yeah, I'm going to go get to that. All right, guys.